Camila thought she was just cleaning out her grandmother's dusty attic when she found the photograph hidden behind an old picture frame, showing her mother smiling radiantly beside a man who wasn't the father Camila had grown up with. But what shattered her world completely was the little girl standing between them. A child who looked exactly like Camila at the same age, wearing the same bright smile and curious eyes. And when she confronted her grandmother with trembling hands, the truth she heard would destroy everything she believed about her family and reveal the sister she never knew existed. Camila had always been close to her grandmother, Rosa, especially after her mother passed away 2 years earlier in Rosa's old house. Decades of family memories while her grandmother was moving to assisted living, prompting Camila to volunteer, helping sort through a lifetime of belongings. The attic was filled with treasures and forgotten items, including old decorations, books, vintage clothing, and countless photographs documenting family gatherings, causing Camila to get lost in memories while smiling at pictures of her mother as a young woman and her own baby photos. Her family had always been small but close-knit, and after her father died when Camila was 15, it had been just her mother, Alina, and grandmother Rosa, with Camila thinking she knew every story, every family secret, and every important moment in their shared history. As she carefully removed an old landscape painting from the wall, something fell to the floor since behind the painting. Wedged between the frame and wall was a photograph that had been deliberately hidden. Camila picked it up, expecting another family snapshot, but instead found herself staring at something that made no sense as the photograph showed her mother, Alina, looking about 25, standing in what appeared to be a park, while smiling radiantly with her arm around a man with dark hair and kind eyes, a man Camila had never seen before. But what made Camila's hands tremble was the little girl standing between them, a child who appeared about 4 years old, with Camila's exact features, same dark curly hair and same bright smile, making it like looking at a photograph of herself that she had no memory of taking. Camila stared at the photograph for several minutes, trying to make sense of what she was seeing, since the date stamp on the back read 26 years ago, around the time of her own birth. But this couldn't be her in the photo, because the man standing with her mother wasn't her father. Her mind raced through possibilities, wondering if it was a cousin, though Camila knew she had no cousins who looked so exactly like her, or maybe an old friend's daughter, but the child's resemblance was too striking to be coincidental.
With shaking hands,
Camila found her grandmother in the kitchen, wrapping dishes in newspaper, saying with an unsteady voice, "Grandma, I found this photograph in the attic. Can you tell me who these people are?" Rosa looked up and her face immediately went pale when she saw what Camila was holding, as the elderly woman's hands stopped moving, and for a moment she looked like she might faint while whispering, "Where did you find that?" and reaching for a chair to steady herself. It was hidden behind the landscape painting. "Grandma, who is this little girl who looks exactly like me? But I don't remember this photo being taken, and who is this man with my mother?" Camila demanded, while Rosa sat heavily in the chair, her eyes filling with tears as she stared at the photograph. For a long moment, Rosa said nothing, just traced the faces in the picture with her finger, before finally saying in a barely audible voice, "I told Elena we should have destroyed this years ago, but she couldn't bring herself to do it, since she said it was the only proof that her other daughter had ever existed." "Other daughter?" Camila felt like the room was spinning as she asked, "What do you mean, other daughter?" While Rosa looked up at her granddaughter with eyes full of pain and regret, saying, "Camila, there's something about your birth that we never told you, something your mother made me promise to keep secret until the day I died." The old woman took a deep breath before continuing, "You weren't born alone, Mia. You had a twin sister, an identical twin," causing Camila's legs to give out as she grabbed the kitchen counter while protesting. "That's impossible. I would remember having a sister. Where is she? What happened to her?" "Your mother was very young when she had you girls," Rosa continued, with tears flowing freely, only 19, unmarried, with no support from your biological father, who abandoned her when he found out she was pregnant with twins. And she had no money, no job, no way to care for 2 babies. Rosa explained that Alina had made the heartbreaking decision to keep one daughter and give the other up for adoption, with the man in the photograph being the adoptive father, and the picture taken during one of the supervised visits before the adoption was finalized. Adding softly, Your mother chose to keep you because you were born first. But giving up your sister nearly destroyed her since she named her Isabella and thought about her every single day. Camila felt like her entire identity was crumbling, since everything she thought she knew about herself, about her family, about her mother's life had been built on hidden truth, and she had spent 26 years believing she was an only child, while never knowing that somewhere in the world was a person who shared her DNA, her face, and possibly even her mannerisms. Where is she now? Do you know what happened to Isabella? Camila asked with her voice barely a whisper, while Rosa reached into an old wooden box, pulling out a manila envelope that had obviously been handled many times over the years and contained more photographs, documents, and letters. Your mother hired a private investigator about 10 years ago, Rosa admitted, because she couldn't stand not knowing if Isabella was safe, if she was happy, if she looked like you, and the investigator found her. The photographs Rosa showed Camila were like looking into a mirror. Since Isabella had grown up to be nearly identical to Camila with the same dark curly hair, the same bright smile, and the same curious eyes, having been raised by loving parents who had given her every opportunity. While she graduated from college, became a teacher, and was living in a city just 3 hours away. Your mother wanted to contact her so many times, Rosa said, while pulling out a stack of unsent letters. Writing to Isabella every year on your birthday. Telling her about her life, about you, about how much she missed her, but she was terrified that reaching out would disrupt Isabella's life or hurt the family who had raised her. But the most shocking revelation was yet to come, as Rosa pulled out a recent newspaper clipping that made Camila's heart stop, showing an engagement announcement, featuring a photograph of Isabella and her with the wedding scheduled for next month in the same city where Camila lived. She's been living 3 hours away from me my entire life, Camila whispered while staring at her twin sister's face. We could have passed each other on the street. We could have been friends without even knowing we were sisters. While Rosa nodded sadly and said, Your mother always hoped that somehow you girls would find each other, since she believed that twins have a special connection that could and be broken no matter how much time or distance separates them. Camila realized that the strange feeling she'd always had of something missing, the inexplicable loneliness she sometimes felt, even when surrounded by people, might have been her subconscious awareness of her missing half. For weeks after discovering the truth, Camila carried Isabella's photograph everywhere, while studying every detail of her twin sister's face and trying to imagine what her life had been like. Reading and rereading every letter their mother had written but never sent, while gaining insight into the pain Alina had carried silently for 26 years. Finally, Camila made a decision that terrified and excited her in equal measure, using the information from the private investigator's report to find Isabella's address and write her a letter that included copies of the photographs, their mother's unsent letters, and the story of how she'd discovered the truth. 3 days later, her phone rang with a voice on the other end that was like hearing her own voice played back to her. The same tone, the same cadence, the same slight laugh at the end of sentences as the voice said, Camila, this is Isabella, I think you're my sister. They met the following weekend at a coffee shop halfway between their cities. And when Camila saw Isabella walk through the door, it was like watching herself enter the room, since they had the same walk, the same habit of tucking their hair behind their left ear when nervous, and even the same preference for ordering their coffee with extra cream. Their reunion was emotional and overwhelming, filled with tears, laughter, and the immediate recognition that they had indeed been missing each other their entire lives. While Isabella revealed that she had always felt an unexplainable emptiness, a sense that part of her was missing, and had even told her adoptive parents that she sometimes felt like she was supposed to be sharing her life with someone. They spent hours comparing their lives while being amazed by the similarities and differences in their paths, discovering that both had become caregivers in their own ways. Camila as a social worker, Isabella as a teacher, and both had struggled with the same fears and dreams, often at the same times in their lives. Sometimes the missing pieces of our lives are hidden in plain sight, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. And Camila's discovery reminds us that family bonds transcend time and distance, while the connections we were meant to have will find their way to us. Even after decades of separation, proving that a single photograph can unlock a lifetime of love that was always there, just waiting to be discovered. This story moved you and made you think about the hidden connections that shape our lives, Subscribe for more stories that explore the extraordinary bonds that unite us, and share this with someone who believes that love always finds a way home.